This podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations. Hey, What Next listeners, it's Mary Harris. Before we get to today's episode, I have a favor to ask. This relationship feels slightly one-sided. Just me talking to you all the time. We want to change that. We have a listener survey we want you to fill out. It's going to really help us do the show better. And we'll hear from you. What you want, what you need, what you love, what you hate. All of that stuff. You can find the survey in our show notes for all the latest episodes, or you can visit slate.com/whatnextsurvey. Okay, on to the show. I called up Paul Kane from over at the Washington Post because I wanted him to explain something called blue dot energy. Paul says to really understand blue dot energy, you got to know about a trip he took to Nebraska a couple weeks back. He was there to talk politics with the locals, many of whom were all revved up for the presidential race, especially in Omaha, Nebraska's small but mighty Democrat-curious urban center.
There was a family in a sort of a leafy neighborhood of Omaha where they made their own lawn sign and they drew this nice, precise blue dot. And then another neighbor said, "Hey, I like the blue dot sign." And then another neighbor said it. And somebody posted on Facebook or Twitter or X or Instagram. And so this has become a thing.
It's not even like Harris Walls. It's like just a dot.
It's a dot. It is a blue dot.
This blue dot represents a strange quirk of electoral politics. On election night, instead of forking over all their delegates to whomever wins the state, Nebraska is going to parcel out a handful of delegates by congressional district. The result is that if Omaha votes Democratic, this blue dot might just throw an electoral vote Kamala Harris's way. And because of the way electoral delegates have been reapportioned since Biden won this district 4 years back, Nebraska could emerge as an electoral college tipping point.
This time around, there is a very real scenario in which Kamala Harris could win Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, the blue wall states. And in years past, that would have put her over the top. But it doesn't. That only adds up to 269 electoral votes.
So Omaha is like, hold it. We're ready for our main character moment.
They could be electoral vote 270, the single electoral vote that gives the presidency to Vice President Harris.
I wonder if for Republicans, this little blue dot could feel like a spoiler.
Yeah, it sure could.
Today on the show, with the election just a few days off, the political map in your mind might be focused on the Democrats' blue wall. But spoiler alert, maybe you should be thinking a little more about Nebraska's blue dot. I'm Mary Harris. You're listening to What Next? Stick around. This show is supported by The World as You'll Know It, a podcast about the forces shaping our future. In the run-up to the election with news cycles captivated by polls and swing states, it's easy to forget about one of the most consequential challenges our next president is going to face, balancing our energy needs with climate goals. In this season of The World as You'll Know It, host and science journalist Ariel Doom-Ross goes deep inside the revolution to replace fossil fuels with clean energy sources. You'll meet the scientists, engineers, and entrepreneurs staking their careers on this effort and discover the places where new technologies like green hydrogen, carbon capture, and next-generation batteries are having the most impact. It's an unprecedented challenge full of fascinating stories. Tune in for The Great Rebuild on this season of The World as You'll Know It. Available wherever you get your podcasts. This show is brought to you by Discover. Have you heard about Doublenomics? It's okay if you haven't. It's extremely niche and practiced by Discover. Here's an example. Discover automatically doubles the cash back earned on your credit card at the end of your first year with Cashback Match. That means with Discover, you could turn $150 cash back into $300. It pays to Discover. See terms at discover.com/creditcard. Nebraska and Maine are the only two states in the whole country with this particularly quirky way of allocating electoral college votes. So when I got Paul on the line, I had to ask, why?
Well, there's a belief in some political science type of circles that this is a more equitable way of doing things and that it spreads around the competitiveness of it. Right now, we have a presidential campaign that is not happening on a national basis. It's happening in just 7 states.
Yep.
The 7 key battleground states. And if everybody did this, you might have real competitive campaigns in different spots in New York and California because they would be trying to win these districts in little places.
I guess I get the pro-democracy argument for doing an election like this and working the Electoral College a little bit differently. I'm just surprised Nebraska chose to do it in recent history because in recent history, Republican states, the move has not been to make themselves more democratic.
Yeah, but again, so Nebraska's history is actually really kind of filled with quirky, good government type of things to do. You know, this was the home of William Jennings Bryan, who was the first real national populist in the late 19th century. He actually represented this area in Congress briefly. And then it was a Republican senator in the 1930s who looked at the bicameral system that we had in Washington and said, this is really screwy. And he led the effort for Nebraska to have its own unicameral legislature and set it up so that there was a 2/3 supermajority needed to clear a filibuster so that no party would have real massive power. So this is just a state that has these traditions.
Good governance traditions aside, Nebraska's system has not historically been decisive. That's because, like I said before, presidential candidates would have to literally tie the Electoral College for one district's vote to matter. But this year, that is actually a possibility. So I asked Paul to walk me through the nitty-gritty of it all.
So if you took all the states that Barack Obama won and that Hillary Clinton won in 2012 and 2016, that adds up into 220-ish or so electoral votes. And then all they needed on top of those was Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. And that put Joe Biden over 270.
The blue wall, so to speak.
Yeah, the blue wall. It would have actually got him to 271 electoral votes, those 3 states. But there's this thing called the census every 10 years, and states that are growing the most get reapportioned their House seats, and states that are either not growing, losing voters, or just not growing nearly as fast end up losing seats. So those 3 states combined, the blue wall, they lost 2 electoral votes. They lost 2 seats in Congress. So all of a sudden, the blue wall added to those Obama-Clinton states only gets you to 269 electoral votes.
So if I'm like in Kamala Harris's campaign, I'm making that cringe face emoji.
Yeah. There's an incredibly crazy scenario. If the race ended in the 269-269 tie, it would go to the House of Representatives, and the state delegations of each of the House delegations would vote as one block, one unit, and that would favor Trump right now under the current alignment. And so 269 probably results in Trump winning a vote in the House. The idea, though, is that with 269 in the bag, number 270 for Harris, is there in Omaha in that second district because they apportion out their electoral votes based on how you perform in each of the House districts.
So you're on the ground in Omaha. What is it feeling like there right now?
Oh, they're excited. They're relevant. I was there and my colleague from the style section, Cara Vaught, was there. And, she met an older couple wearing Trump MAGA hats. And they told her, oh, no, we don't want to change this system. We love it. We're relevant right now. Even though polling shows that Harris is ahead and this could be the vote that gives her the presidency over Trump, they loved it because all of a sudden they are getting two reporters from the Washington Post there. The New York Times has been there a couple times. NPR has been there. CBS has been there. All of a sudden there's this attention and there are these rallies and events. J.D. Vance did a fundraising swing through there. They don't get this type of attention the way their neighbor Iowa does. Iowa gets all that attention because of the caucus. And now here's Omaha and its surrounding suburbs with a chance to one-up Iowa and say, we decided the presidency, actually, in the general election. So much for your little caucus over there every 4 years.
Back in September, the Republicans did see this blue dot thing coming, and they did respond. Can you explain what happened?
Sure. When the Trump team realized just how possible this is it a certainty? No. Is it something that's like a 5% chance or 10% chance? Maybe. And if so, you want to prepare for it. They made the decision of, hey, let's get to the current governor and try to get him to switch the law and, take out blue dot energy in one fell swoop. And so Lindsey Graham went there.
Trump phoned in and called some folks too, right?
Well, Lindsey Graham was there meeting with a bunch of the Republican legislators. He got Trump on the phone, put him on speakerphone, and he tried to talk to these folks and try to get them to switch.
In the end, the fight over Nebraska's one electoral vote and this blue dot and the GOP push to change how things worked, it all came down to one guy, right? Who was that?
Yes, the pivotal vote in the state Senate was a former Democrat named Mike McDonnell from Omaha, who had switched parties largely out of his more conservative views on abortion.
What made him so pivotal?
Well, there are 33 Republicans in the state Senate there, the unicameral state Senate, and there's a question as to whether all 33 would have voted yes to change the law and eliminate this apportionment of electoral college votes. But McDonnell was the highest profile one. He had previously said he wasn't going to vote to change the law, and then he put out a statement kind of saying he was considering it. And for a hot minute, it seemed like McDonnell was willing to flip. And it was believed if he did, the other moderate-ish Republicans in the Omaha region all would have gone with him. But after, a couple of days of reflection, he put out a statement saying no, he was going to stick to his previous support for the law as it currently exists. Now, the thing to remember is he wants to run for mayor of Omaha. And it really, really would have been a bad idea to be seen as the guy that switches the law, which snuffs out all this excitement around the idea that Omaha is pivotal, wiping out the advertising budgets of some of the local TV stations, and then run for mayor of the city that you just kind of sort of screwed over with your vote. And so at that point, everybody knew, okay, this is over. We're not going to change the law. That electoral vote is still up for grabs. What's going to happen next? And what's happened is the Harris campaign has, doubled down on all of its efforts to win that electoral vote, and the Trump campaign has done nothing.
Yeah. I mean, how would you characterize how the Trump campaign responded? Because I think in your reporting you said they've spent nothing in this area.
Yeah.
And it's not a district that they could not win either. Like, they have fans there.
Yeah. It has gone back and forth in the presidential race. Obama won it once, Biden won it once, Trump won it once, Romney won it once. So it's competitive, but they just haven't put anything into it. Trump tweeted some bravado about how he's going to have to go try and win now, but it hasn't been followed up with anything real. And polling has since shown, like, the district has simply moved away from Trump. And, the New York Times currently has Harris ahead by 12 points in Nebraska's 2nd district. So she's maintained her lead, if not even expanded the lead, because Trump has just abandoned the place.
After the break, it turns out the presidential race is not Nebraska's only chance to shift the balance of power in Washington. This show is brought to you by Discover. Have you heard about Doublenomics? It's okay if you haven't. It's extremely niche and practiced by Discover. Here's an example. Discover automatically doubles the cash back earned on your credit card at the end of your first year with Cashback Match. That means with Discover, you could turn $150 cash back into $300. It pays to Discover. See terms at discover.com/creditcard.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes per detail.
Paul Kane says one of the things he learned on his trip to Nebraska is that Blue Dot Energy is not just about the presidential race. That's because it turns out there are also 2 congressional races playing out right now. First, there's a House race between incumbent Republican Representative Don Bacon and a state senator, Tony Vargas, who's trying to unseat him. Vargas challenged Bacon back in 2022, and he lost that race by less than 6,000 votes. He's hoping this time around, the presidential election and a ballot measure about abortion will drive more voters to show up for him.
He was pretty open and honest about when he ran last time. He did not run the type of tough contrast ads that are kind of standard in campaigns now.
He tried to be a nice guy.
Yeah, and he did not go after Bacon on his abortion rights issues.
Is it different this time?
It is. It's different. It's very different. And he told me, he said, we did well and overperformed in places that we didn't expect to. But we really needed to make sure to do more to get more Democrats out to vote. And part of that is hitting harder on issues like abortion and Bacon's stance on it.
Okay, so this congressional race looks kind of interesting. The Democrats in Washington must be excited about that.
Yeah, there have been some nonpartisan handicappers, the folks at Inside Elections, who've actually tilted the race in Vargas's direction, given him a slight lead, and that would be a big pickup for Democrats who only need to net gain 4 seats to win the House majority.
There's a Senate race going on here, too. And this isn't a Democrat. This is an independent, a guy named Dan Osburn, who's challenging an incumbent Republican Senator, Deb Fischer. What's going on with that race? Obviously, it's statewide, so there'd need to be a whole lot of Blue Dot Energy to, kind of really make this go over the top.
Yeah, to be clear, when I said that Harris is winning, anywhere from 9 to 12 points in the 2nd congressional district, statewide, Trump is still winning by about 15 to 18 points, depending on the poll for Nebraska. So you can imagine he is running up the score in the 1st and 3rd district. So statewide, you should be pretty good and comfortable if you're a Republican.
But the Republican isn't. Like, Cook Political Report has this race as lean Republican, which is one tick away from being a toss-up.
Yeah, and I think they're just afraid to. I think they normally would at this point call it a toss-up, but they just can't get past the fact that Nebraska is Nebraska. Osburn has run a really good campaign. Osburn is a union leader. He has led striking colleagues. He is running very independently. He's got an ad up now that talks about saying, like, hey, I'm all for a wall. I want a border wall. I want to protect American jobs. I'm not here for any of these billionaires on either side of this issue. And it is a well-run campaign. He gotten ahead of her in terms of advertising. And when I was there, I was stunned how much more prevalent his ads were.
He's got a lot of money, right?
Yeah. He's raised a lot of money from union folks. And, like, to be clear, I'm sure there are a bunch of, very online liberals who see this as a way to knock off a Republican. And most people suspect that if he did win, that he would end up caucusing with Democrats. So there's a lot of belief and expectation in Democratic circles that Osburn, if he pulls off this remarkable upset, would sit with them and therefore give them an extra insurance policy against possibly losing in Montana. You know, if they're already giving up and forfeiting West Virginia, the Democrats, which gets Republicans to 50 seats. If John Tester loses in Montana, a really deep red state, then they need to pick up something somewhere, and Nebraska would be it.
Nebraska's really punching above its weight here.
Yes, it really is. And Republicans still are kind of confident. And I think most people just expect at the end of the day, all those people who go in and vote for Trump are going to be like, yeah, I want to vote for Fisher. So they think in the end, Deb Fisher is going to win, but it is a real race. I don't know how he pulls it off, given we've seen this happen in other election cycles. Somebody runs this great race and they just can't overperform enough because the state they're running in is so conservative or so liberal, but he's trying.
It's interesting to me that from your reporting and others, I've gathered that Trump's campaign has kind of given up on the 2nd congressional district when it comes to his race. But no one's giving up on when it comes to this congressional race or the Senate race.
Yes.
There's this kind of split screen going on.
Yeah.
How do you make sense of that? Is there a logic there?
Well, a 6-year term in the U.S. Senate is an incredibly valuable treasure. And if you can steal one of those from a very conservative place or a very liberal place, it is a military maneuver in politics. So you're not going to give up on and Republicans have gone all in to try and help her out. They got Trump to film a commercial that they've got on air now, with Trump basically trying to tell all of these people, hey, you got to vote for Deb Fisher. We'll see if that works. It didn't work when he and Lindsey Graham tried to tell the legislature to change the law on electoral college stuff, but they're going to try it in the Senate race.
I've been thinking about how it could take days for us to have a complete picture of the election results at a national level.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder that given that there's so many of these races in Nebraska that are happening all at once and offer this like stark contrast, will it be important to watch early returns in Nebraska? Like, will it tell us something about what's happening globally with this election? And if so, what?
I think so, sort of. The thing that's different and strange about it is the Omaha 2nd Congressional District is similar to a lot of suburban districts that are important in these statewide elections and statewide elections for the allotment of electoral college votes in the presidential race, in the Philadelphia collar counties, the quote wow counties, and just outside Milwaukee, and some of the Michigan counties, it has a lot of similarities to them. But the one thing that's really kind of tricky is that Trump not engaging here and not even trying to win is so different than what's happening in the other places.
Because he's locked and loaded in those other places.
Oh my gosh. I've done 2 trips up into the Pennsylvania area, one in Harrisburg, one in Bucks County, right outside Philadelphia. And, everything is a political ad. And so if the results come in early in the Omaha area and you look and Don Bacon has a little bit of a lead.
The Republican.
Yeah, the Republican Congressman Don Bacon has a lead. And if Trump is within a few points of Harris, that would probably mean it would be a bad thing nationally for Democrats, because that probably means that the blue dot energy, fizzled. And if it's fizzling there, then it means it might be fizzling nationwide.
Paul, I'm really grateful for your time and your reporting. Thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, it was fun.
Paul Kane is a congressional reporter over at the Washington Post. And that's the show. If you cannot get enough of politics right now, and truly, who can't? I've got a reminder for you. We have a special feature in this feed every week. We call it The Surge. It's me and Slate's political guru, Jim Newell, letting our bellies out and just talking politics. Who's up, who's down, who is off the charts. It's really fun. We curse. We do all sorts of things we don't normally do on this show. But if you want to hear The Surge, you have to join Slate Plus. To do that, you just subscribe on Apple Podcasts by clicking Try Free at the top of the What Next page. Or you can visit slate.com/whatnextplus and get access wherever you listen. You'll get bonus content, plus no ads on any podcast, including this one. The Surge is available for you to listen to every Friday after lunch, so come hang out with me and Jim. It's a fun time. What Next is produced by Paige Osburn, Elena Schwartz, Rob Gunther, Anna Phillips, and Madeline Ducharme. We are led by Alicia Montgomery. Ben Richmond is the Senior Director of Podcast Operations here at Slate. And I'm Mary Harris. Thanks for listening. I'll catch you back here next time.
I said to Roger, the last thing you are fair and balanced. That should have been my slogan.
When the Fox News Channel first went on the air, it promised to change television.
Few broadcasts take any chances these days, and most are very politically correct. Well, we're going to be different.
It's going to be kick-ass, and I want to be part of it.
I'm Josh Levine. In this season of Slow Burn, we'll look at the moment in the early 2000s when Fox News became a political and cultural force.
I'm okay with wearing an American flag. And if you're not, I think you need to examine who you are.
You'll hear from Fox insiders, many who've never spoken out before.
I was not told about that beforehand, for good reason. I wouldn't have gone along with it.
And you'll hear from the activists and comedians who tried to stop it.
He said, "You're being sued by Fox." I went, "Really? That's fabulous."
Slow Burn Season 10, The Rise of Fox News. Hear the entire season now, wherever you listen.
Hey, it's Mary again. Thanks for sticking around to the end of this episode. Before I say goodbye for the day, quick reminder to take our listener survey that we're running this month. We want to make sure your voice is heard. Visit the show notes or slate.com/whatnextsurvey. It'll only take a few minutes, I promise. Totally painless. Thanks again. I'll see you next episode.